Hello there and welcome to a very special edition of the Tabletop Genesis podcast. Today we'll be focusing on the Genesis Mama Tour DVD. And the reason we're actually putting this episode out is that a lot of references were made to the DVD during a previous episode which focused upon the Genesis /Shape/ Mama album. But due to running issues and the fact that we wanted to stay on topic, we left a lot of it out. What we've done here is compiled some of the material that made reference to the DVD in the previous episode, along with some of the material which we couldn't include. We hope you enjoy it.
For kids of my age in the US, and probably a little bit younger, the Mama Tour video in probably 85 or so was played to death on MTV. I watched it every time it came on, and probably videotaped it also off the TV. And it was one of those things that I would just obsessively kind of watch and rewatch to really kind of get into the intricacies of this band. I think Stacey had a similar experience.
Yeah, actually the Mama Tour video was my first encounter with Genesis. Although at the time I didn't really know it was Genesis. So when
how old were you then?
I was probably 7. Yeah, I was 7 years old. So what happened, 7 or 8 at this point, probably 8. So long ago, I can't really remember. But
3 years.
Yeah, I know, it just flies. So I got into No Jacket Required, one of Phil's solo albums, when it came out. And I just fell in love with it. I made my mom and dad play it all the time. And I just fell in love with Phil Collins. And around this time, a video store opened up in our neighborhood, and on the Friday nights, my mom would take my sister Sue and myself to the video store, and we could pick one VHS cassette each to watch, just to keep us quiet, I guess, for the evening. And my sister would go and pick out some Care Bears nonsense or Disney video. And I remember walking through one time, and I saw the Mama Tour cassette, and I saw Phil Collins on the cover, and I was like, oh, there's Phil Collins, I know him, and I would rent it. Fell in love with it. That was my regular rent every Friday for quite a while. I remember. I should ask my mom, actually. She has a memory of this. I was 7.
That's pretty precocious watching, isn't it?
I was obsessed with music. I remember when I was very young, like younger than even that, when my mom wanted some alone time or she had to do something, she would just sit me in the living room with the radio on, and I would just sit there and listen. So she could go in the kitchen, she'd go take a shower, and so the radio was my babysitter. And I remember hearing That's All, and I used to call it the black and white song. And I remember asking my mom once, and I didn't understand how radio worked. I was just asking, I was like, Mom, can you make them play the black and white song for me? Again, not knowing it was Genesis. I just heard Phil Collins. I thought it was a Phil Collins song. I thought, it was Phil. And, so you imagine my surprise years later getting this album after I got Invisible Touch for my 9th birthday present. And hearing I saw, looking at the tracks. I could read at this point, so I'm very proud of myself. I was reading through the tracks. I'm like, okay, I didn't recognize it. But when That's All started, I was like, the black and white song. It was amazing. So, yeah, Genesis, has always been a part of my life, whether I knew it or not, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was for me, seeing, the That's All in the Mama videos on MTV a lot. That was probably my first real awareness, really, the That's All video of, there's this band called Genesis, and it's separate from Phil Collins. Right. Because I think Phil was well-known enough there within the Air Tonight and maybe a couple other things that, I kind of became aware of both of them at the same time when I was, 12, 13, that age.
Yeah, me too. Growing up in Argentina, again, all the music video, shows on TV, they would show, Mama Tour, parts, songs like. And so and then I would rent the videos, the VHS as well. Not every Friday though, but quite often because I would go to my auntie's place that they have a video, and so I would rent that, and Three Sides Live too, and I loved it. I fell in love with Phil Collins, and so it was lovely. I was like, I need to get this cassette.
We were talking about the Mama video. I think it played a big part in all of our fandom of this band. And it is kind of like, if I had a shelf where I could have shining lights on it, in a spotlight, I would probably put it up there because I did watch the crap out of that once I found it and bought it. Mm-hmm. And as great as it was, I think when I found out what they left off of it, I was kind of really pissed because they left off some great stuff on it. First of all, they left off the opener Dodo.
Yes.
They left off the first old medley.
Right.
They left off Follow You, Follow Me.
Right. They left off Los Endos.
And Los Endos. I mean, those are like... It's
Misunderstanding was left off of that. Yeah, I mean,
well, that's okay.
Yeah, we don't care about that.
that was the first encore, and just seeing these songs with this light set up, to see this stage show, even though these songs, many of them had been on Three Sides Live, and the first old medley too, to not have these on the video were just really, really disappointing. So,
were they actually videoed, or was it literally were? I.e., are they sitting in an archive somewhere?
I would think.
I would think they'd have to be filmed because they wouldn't know starting off which songs they'd be using on the video necessarily. They played 4 nights at Birmingham that they used for the video. I would think that they didn't just record 70 minutes of the show, that not consecutively.
I'm just thinking whether or not there could conceivably be technical issues and stuff. There's a classic example of that when Godley and Cream videoed the Police doing the Synchronicity concert, and they did one night where the guys were all dressed in white, and it was an absolute disaster. So the second night they put some coloured clothes on them, and I think one of the things I was thinking about is it could conceivably be that they played these songs and maybe there just wasn't the spirit about those songs that were working.
It could be. And I would just hope that maybe in a vault somewhere at some point these might see the light of day somewhere.
Yeah, I was really surprised that when they did the reissue in 2006, 2007, whatever, that they weren't as like bonus tracks or on there.
From what I understand, and this is, unfortunate, fans who are real fans of the band always want these live videos to come out, but they're honestly not big sellers. And kind of going back into the archives, wherever these films might be, even if they even know where they are at this stage, because it wasn't like the band kept these films, it would be probably cost prohibitive to go in and do that now. Even Peter Gabriel talked about with the Live in Athens video that they did go back in and pull songs that, hadn't been on there. They basically had a ton of film to go through. And I think he wasn't exaggerating the weight. He said it was a literal ton of film to go through with this. Because again, when it's, 5 cameras shooting over multiple nights, these generate a lot of material. So yeah, I would love to see I would just love a professional audio release of this tour. What I've heard of on bootlegs and also some of the radio shows where Dodo was included as on King Biscuit, it's like, I would kill to have these professionally done. So, hopefully someday that will happen.
Would I be right in agreeing that everybody around this table has watched the shit out of this?
Oh yeah.
I know where almost every single cut is coming up. I know the beats on which those cuts. I know that on Illegal Alien, Chester Thompson does not have his snare properly on his snare drum, and so for the first couple of beats it's going doink, doink, and then he gets it on, and then it goes pack, like that. And it's also the only tour in which Tony Banks is in the middle of the stage and not at the right.
Yeah, which I think is a cool setup, and I think maybe he decided after that tour that it wasn't that cool for him.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to sit between two drummers.
I think it had something to do with the fact that, Collins and Thompson didn't want to be that far separated.
Yeah, the visual cue that they need to have with each other. I'm feeling that was difficult.
And it was the very first time that I ever saw that they did the Slipper Men as a trio.
Right, it's just the three of them playing for that little bit.
That section. I'd never got it. I'd heard it on Three Sides Live. Always assumed the full band was playing.
Yeah. No. Well, that's the thing about Genesis and some of these instrumental bits is that you don't quite know that it's only the 3 of them at times. Like in Cinema Show, that it's only the 3 of them.
Sorry, it's Cinema Show, right?
No, but you're right about Slipper Men too, is that is only the 3 of them. I mean, Daryl comes in at the end with some guitar. But just segueing into Afterglow, but that's my guitar impersonation. But that's
that was a guitar. Okay.
Not a cat.
Is he okay? Does he need help over there?
I know, it's a little bit of a seizure, I think. But I think that those are the neat bits, and I remember, even seeing them live, playing I Can't Dance, where it's just for the first half of the song, just the three of them. And I'm like, that's really cool that there are things that they can do. Fading Lights that they were able to play in 92 with just the three of them on stage for 10 minutes. Yeah. Fantastic. Because that's the band there. Daryl and Chester are great. But I think, when it comes down to the guys who are creating the music, it's the three of them in that setup.
And with the saying, regretting the loss of the old medley on the video for the tour, they were actually experimenting with that old medley through the course of that tour. Right. It actually evolved, and I have some boots here. Very early in the tour, the old medley was 11th Earl of Mar, Squonk, and then Firth of Fifth.
Wow.
That was in late 83. And then when it got to early 84, they changed it to 11th Earl of Mar, Behind the Lines, Firth of Fifth, and then the end of Musical Box.
Wow.
And by the time they reached the end of the tour, it was 11th Earl of Mar, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Firth of Fifth, and Musical Box ending.
God damn you, Genesis!
That was a medley that did change around a little bit, and one of the early ones on that tour had a bit of ripples in it too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that was a medley that I think of almost as a precursor to the '92 medley that kind of took some different music, because they did Firth of Fifth, Lamb was in there, Musical Box was in there at times. Sometimes 11th Earl of Mar was just kind of the instrumental opening. Sometimes they do the first verse of it. It's really great stuff, and I wish that the Genesis would, again, it's been, at this point, 8 years since the last tour anyway, and they probably aren't going to tour again, but I wish that they would do medleys like that they could play around with different things each night, just for their own sake.
I have a very love-hate relationship with medleys. I recognise that there is a huge body of work from which they have to pick in, and unless you're going to do a 3.5 hour show, you can't please everybody. Right. Yeah. On the other side, medleys suck.
Amen.
I'm sorry, there's no getting around it. But I recognise that's the best solution to a crappy problem.
At least you hear bits of things. Yeah. So that was with '92 tour. It was like some people were really sad that In the Cage wasn't in the set anymore, and I was like, I like the song. I've heard it enough. That's the same thing I thought in 2007. I like In the Cage. Had they done another old medley in its place, would have been fine. I would have said, "Oh, too bad they didn't play In the Cage."
No, I mean, medley. You could do a medley, but if you don't do any other old song, at least one in its entirety, that's to me, it's.
Well, I think there's one we can wrap up with. The elephant in the room with the Mama tour it's known as 3 words among Genesis circles: that damn medley.
Yes.
When they decided for the first time in their touring history to do a medley of non-Genesis songs, which is
Turn It On Again,
during Turn On Again they were going to a lot of Pinball Wizard. What else did they go into?
The Culture Club.
Karma Chameleon,
and Blues Brothers,
Blues Brothers.
I think that's one of those things that works live.
It works if you're there and drunk and stoned.
Interestingly enough, that medley dates worse than their actual older material.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. And most of the time, I think it was only on the video that they kind of, at least in 83 and 84, that they threw in some modern songs into that. I think in 86, 87, it was all older songs. I think they kind of wised up that maybe doing Culture Club was not the smartest.
Every breath you take.
Every breath you take in there. So
Pinball Wizard.
Yeah, Pinball Wizard was an older one at least, but those ones, Every Breath You Take is a classic song.
Now, do we know why they do these medleys with non-Genesis songs?
I think it was just fun.
They want to be funny?
The time it's taking up, they could have played another classic.
Because I didn't think maybe they don't have enough material of Genesis, so they have to resort to other bands.
Between the big shows, they were supplementing their wages by doing pub gigs.
Right.
And doing
all they needed was Weird Al to come on with an accordion. It would have been one of his polka mixes.
Yeah, that's probably,
But I'll be honest, when I bought that Illegal Alien 12-inch single, and they had that medley on the back with Turn It On Again, I thought it was fantastic. I did, and I thought it was great that they did all these other songs. But then I think, as a fan, as you get deeper into it, you think, oh, they spent 7 minutes doing this medley. They could have played blah, in that space. They could have played Lamb Lies Down. They could have played Silver Rainbow. They could have played something else that was new, something else that was old.
I think they were having a bit of fun.
That's the thing, and I think that's
No, not allowed.
That's what I said. It works it works when, and Stacey said it too. It works
you're
when
there.
you're there in the show and you're enjoying yourself. As a repeated experience, it doesn't quite work.
No,
as well,
and on the
so.
DVD, yeah.
The one thing that I really love from that DVD, and it has been remarked by other fans, is the opening to Illegal Alien, where Phil has got the great big ghetto blaster sitting on, and I just love the little nod that they play a little bit of 90125.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you know, they play Owner of a Lonely Heart. And that's a really nice little touch, like, you know, it's one of our contemporaries. They're in the charts as well.
Yeah.
You know?
They've been around forever too.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks again for listening, everybody. It's been fantastic to talk about Genesis Mama Shapes with you all.
The piano album.
The piano album, as Tom calls it. We will be back again with whatever album we decide to talk about next. You can find us on Twitter at Genesis Tabletop. You can find us on Facebook under Tabletop Genesis. You can find us on the web at tabletopgenesis.com. And you can write an old-fashioned email to us at genesistabletop@gmail.com. And so we're all over the place. Who knows? We may have Instagram by the time you next find us. You can even find us on Tinder, maybe. So if you want to date the whole group, you know where to find us. So we'll be back next time with more detailed commentary on some Genesis album. And have a great time. Enjoy the rest of your day, week, month, year. Thank you very much.